Welcome to Big Breaking News of America. Genesis Episode 32. Broader cultural and religious impact of the Joseph narrative, Genesis 37:50. The Joseph narrative and conclusion, Genesis 37:50, form the culminating section of the book of Genesis, delivering a unified, character-driven story that transitions from the episodic patriarchal narratives, Genesis 12:36, to Joseph's transformative journey from a betrayed dreamer to Egypt's vizier, ensuring his family's survival and establishing Israel's presence in Egypt, preparing for the Exodus narrative, Exodus 1:15. Framed by the Toledo generations of Jacob, Genesis 37:2, the narrative integrates covenantal promises of land, descendants, and blessing, Genesis 12:1-3, with universal themes of forgiveness, divine providence, and communal identity. Rooted in the late Bronze Age and shaped by exilic concerns, 587-539 BCE, Genesis 37:50 transcends its historical context to exert a profound cultural and religious impact across Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions, as well as global literature, art, and ethical discourse. Its literary artistry, vivid characterization, chiastic structure, and motifs like dreams and reconciliation, resonates with diverse audiences, influencing religious practices, theological exegesis, interfaith dialogue, and contemporary movements for justice and unity. This exploration examines the narrative's impact on Jewish liturgy and identity, Christian theology, Islamic exegesis, interfaith initiatives, cultural productions, literature, art, film, theater, and modern applications in leadership, reconciliation, and social justice, demonstrating how Genesis 37:50 shapes Genesis conclusion, bridges to the Torah, and inspires global audiences. 1. Impact on Jewish tradition and identity. The Joseph narrative is a cornerstone of Jewish tradition, shaping liturgy, ethical teachings, communal identity, and spiritual practices. Its themes of teshuvah, chaste, loving kindness, and divine providence resonate in Jewish worship, education, and cultural expressions, reinforcing covenantal hope and Israel's mission. Liturgy and festivals. The narrative is central to the Parshiot, weekly Torah portions, of Vayishev, Miketz, Vayigash, and Vayichi, Genesis 37:50, read annually in synagogues. Key passages, such as Joseph's reconciliation, Genesis 45:4-15, and Jacob's blessings, Genesis 49, are integrated into Salishot, penitential prayers, and Shabbat services, emphasizing teshuvah and tribal unity. Yom Kippur liturgy draws on the brothers' remorse, Genesis 42:21-22, and Joseph's forgiveness, Genesis 45:4-15, aligning with repentance themes, Leviticus 16. Midrash, Bereshit Rabbah 92:5, and Talmud, Yoma 86b, amplify this, making Genesis 45 a model for atonement. Pesach celebrations cite Joseph's burial request, Genesis 50:24-25, as a sign of redemption, linking to Exodus 13:19. Haftarah selections, such as Ezekiel 37 for Vayichi, reflect midrashic hopes of restoration, Bereshit Rabbah 98:2. Sephardic and Chassidic communities incorporate Zohar's mystical readings, for example, Joseph as Yesod, Zohar, Vaishev 182a, into Kabbalat Shabbat, emphasizing cosmic unity. Ethical and educational impact. The narrative's ethics, Joseph's integrity, Genesis 39:9, Judah's Teshuvah, Genesis 44:18-34, and familial chaste, Genesis 45:7-8, shape Mussar, ethical discipline. The Talmud, Sota 36b, praises Joseph's resistance to temptation, guiding halakhic principles on purity, taught in yeshivas and shevruta study. Midrash, Bereshit Rabban 90:3, underscores providence, Genesis 50:20, offering resilience for diaspora communities, a theme central to Jewish education, for example, Wexner Foundation Curricula, 2025. Tamar's agency, Genesis 38:14-26, inspires feminist exegesis, with organizations like the Jewish Women's Archive, 2025, citing her role in securing Judah's line, Ruth 4:18-22, to promote gender equity. Communal identity and Zionism. Jacob's blessings, Genesis 49, and Joseph's bones, Genesis 50:24-25, reinforce Jewish connection to the land, shaping Zionist ideals. Modern movements, for example, Israel Unity Government, 2025, draw on Genesis 49:8-12 to foster national unity, echoing midrashic messianic hopes, Bereshit Rabban 98:2. The narrative's exile redemption cycle, emphasized by the Zohar, Vaichi 245a, informs Tisha B'Av reflections, strengthening diaspora identity and hope for restoration, Deuteronomy 31:5. Shabbat and other networks use Genesis 45:4-15 to promote unity, addressing communal divisions, Gallup, 2023. Cultural expressions. The narrative influences Hebrew literature, such as S.Y. Agnon's And the Crooked Shall Be Made Straight, 1912, which reimagines Joseph's providence. Marc Chagall's Joseph series, 1960s, captures the narrative's emotional depth, exhibited in Jewish museums, Israel Museum, 2025. Yiddish theater and modern Israeli drama adapt Genesis 37:50, with plays like Yosef v. Eshev, 2024, exploring sibling rivalry and reconciliation, reflecting Jewish cultural resilience. Theological significance. The narrative reinforces covenantal continuity, with Joseph's role, Genesis 45:7, and Judah's leadership, Genesis 49:8-12, fulfilling Genesis 12:1-3, prefiguring Sinai's covenant, Exodus 19:6. Its emphasis on Teshuvah and chaste shapes Torah ethics, Leviticus 19:18, while providence, Genesis 50:20, offers hope, aligning with prophetic visions, Isaiah 41:11. 2. Impact on Christian tradition and theology. In Christianity, the Joseph narrative is a theological touchstone, interpreted as a typology of Christ, a model of forgiveness, and a testament to divine providence. Its influence spans exegesis, liturgy, art, and ethical teachings, shaping Christian identity and practice. Theological typology. Early Christian exegesis, such as Acts 7:9-16, Stephen's speech, views Joseph as a type of Christ, betrayed, Genesis 37:18-28, exalted, Genesis 41:40-46, and saving his people, Genesis 45:7. Origen's homilies, 3rd century CE, link Joseph's trials to Christ's passion, influencing patristic theology. Genesis 49:8-12, Judah's scepter, is interpreted as Christ's Davidic kingship, Matthew 1:16, a theme central to Revelation 5:5, Lion of Judah. Augustine's Confessions, 4th century, cites Genesis 50:20 for providence, aligning with Romans 8:28. Joseph's forgiveness, Genesis 45:4-15, prefigures Christian reconciliation, Matthew 6:14-15, shaping sermons and catechesis. Liturgical and homiletic use. The narrative is read during Advent and Lent, with Genesis 45:4-15 emphasizing reconciliation and Genesis 49:8-12 heralding Christ's coming. Lectionaries, for example, Revised Common Lectionary, 2025, pair Genesis 37:50 with New Testament texts, for example, Matthew 18:21-35, to highlight forgiveness. Sermons draw on Joseph's integrity, Genesis 39:9, for moral exhortation, as seen in John Chrysostom's homilies, 4th century. Modern preachers, for example, Saddleback Church, 2025, use Genesis 41:33-36 for leadership, addressing contemporary ethics. Art and iconography. Christian art, such as James Tisot's Joseph and His Brothers, 1896-1902, depicts Genesis 45's emotional reunion, displayed in churches and museums, Metropolitan Museum, 2025. Medieval illuminated manuscripts, for example, Vienna Genesis, 6th century, illustrate Joseph's dreams, Genesis 37:5-11, symbolizing divine guidance. Renaissance frescoes, like those in Florence's Duomo, 15th century, portray Genesis 49's tribal blessings, linking to Christ's lineage, influencing Christian aesthetics. Ethical and social impact. Joseph's leadership, Genesis 41:40-46, informs Christian ethics, with ministries like Focus on the Family, 2025, citing Genesis 41 for governance. Genesis 45:4-15 shapes restorative justice, influencing prison ministries, Prison Fellowship, 2025. The narrative's providence, Genesis 50:20, inspires resilience, with Christian apps, YouVersion, 2025, offering Genesis 37:50 devotionals to address spiritual disconnection, Pew, 2023. Theological significance. The narrative bridges Old and New Testaments, with Joseph's salvation, Genesis 45:7, prefiguring Christ's redemption, John 3:16, and Judah's kingship, Genesis 49:8-12, fulfilling messianic promises, 2 Samuel 7. Its emphasis on forgiveness and providence aligns with Christian grace, Ephesians 2:8, preparing for the Gospel's universal call, Acts 1:8. 3. Impact on Islamic tradition and exegesis. In Islam, the Joseph narrative, primarily through Surah Yusuf, Quran 12, is revered as the best of stories. Quran 12:3, shaping theology, ethics, and storytelling. Its parallels with Genesis 37:50 highlight shared Abrahamic themes, influencing Islamic practice and culture. Theological and exegetical role. Surah Yusuf, Quran 12:4101, closely mirrors Genesis 37:50, depicting Joseph's dreams. Quran 12:46, betrayal. Quran 12:1518, trials. Quran 12:2342, and rise. Quran 12:54-56. Islamic exegesis, tafsir, such as Ibn Kathir's 14th century, views Joseph as a prophet, with his piety. Quran 12:24, compare Genesis 39:9, reflecting divine favor. The brothers' Tawbah, repentance. Quran 12 hours 87 minutes. Compare Genesis 42:21-22, and Joseph's forgiveness. Quran 12 hours 92 minutes. Compare Genesis 45:4-15, emphasize Allah's mercy, aligning with Surah Al-Hujurat 49 hours 10 minutes. Judah's plea. Quran 12:78-80. Compare Genesis 44:18-34, is seen as loyalty, shaping fiqh, jurisprudence, on family duty, as per Al-Tabari's tafsir, 9th century. Liturgical and cultural use. Surah Yusuf is recited during Ramadan and Eid, with Quran 12 hours 92 minutes inspiring forgiveness sermons. Islamic platforms. Yaqeen Institute, 2025, use the surah for spiritual growth, addressing modern disconnection. Pew, 2023. Sufi exegesis, like Rumi's Masnavi, 13th century, interprets Joseph's trials as the soul's journey, influencing mystical practices and poetry recitals in dhikr gatherings. Art and literature. Islamic art, such as Persian miniatures, for example, Yusuf and Zuleika, 16th century, depicts Genesis 39's temptation scene, emphasizing Joseph's purity, displayed in museums. Louvre, 2025. Calligraphy of Surah Yusuf adorns mosques, symbolizing divine guidance. Literature, like Jami's Yusuf and Zuleika, 15th century, adapts Genesis 37:50, blending romance and spirituality, influencing Urdu and Turkish poetry. Ethical and social impact. Joseph's leadership, Quran 12:54-56, compare Genesis 41:40-46, shapes Islamic governance ethics, with the Muslim World League, 2025, citing it for justice. His Tawbah, Quran 12 hours 87 minutes, informs community healing, addressing polarization. Gallup, 2023. The narrative's emphasis on family unity, Quran 12:93-100, compare Genesis 46:29-30, guides Ummah initiatives, with NGOs like Islamic Relief, 2025, using it for refugee advocacy. Theological significance. Surah Yusuf reinforces Allah's sovereignty, Quran 12:21, compare Genesis 50 hours 20 minutes, aligning with Genesis providence and preparing for Islamic monotheism, Surah Al-Ikhlas 112. Its focus on Tawbah and mercy bridges to Islamic ethics, Surah Al-Nur 2400 hours 10, unifying Abrahamic themes of redemption. 4. Interfaith dialogue and shared Abrahamic heritage. The Joseph narrative's universal themes foster interfaith dialogue, uniting Jewish, Christian, and Islamic communities through shared Abrahamic heritage and ethical values. Shared themes and exegesis. Genesis 45:4-15 and Surah Yusuf 12 hours 92 minutes emphasize forgiveness, cited in interfaith initiatives like the Abrahamic Family House, 2023, to promote reconciliation. Judah's Teshuvah, Genesis 44:18-34, and Tawbah, Quran 12:78-80, resonate with Christian grace, Matthew 6:14-15, shaping joint seminars, UN Interfaith Harmony Week, 2025. Joseph's Providence, Genesis 50 hours 20 minutes, Quran 12:21, unifies Abrahamic views of divine plan, with Midrash, Bereshit Rabbah 90:3, patristic exegesis, Augustine, and Tafsir, Ibn Kathir, offering parallel insights, taught in interfaith curricula, Harvard Divinity, 2025. Genesis 49:8-12's Messianic hope aligns with Christian Christology, Revelation 5:5, and Islamic eschatology, Mahdi traditions, fostering dialogue on redemption. Interfaith initiatives. The narrative inspires joint projects, such as the Scriptural Reasoning Movement, 2025, where Genesis 37:50 and Surah Yusuf are studied to address polarization, Gallup, 2023. The Parliament of the World's Religions, 2024, cites Genesis 45 for peace building. Interfaith art exhibits, for example, British Museum, 2025, showcase Chagall's Joseph, Tissot's Brothers, and Persian Yusuf miniatures, highlighting shared aesthetics. Educational programs, like those at Al-Aqsa Mosque and St. Paul's Cathedral, 2025, use Genesis and Surah Yusuf to teach youth about unity, countering extremism. Theological significance. The narrative bridges Abrahamic faiths, with providence, forgiveness, and redemption unifying Jewish covenant, Exodus 19:6, Christian grace, Ephesians 2:8, and Islamic mercy, Surah Al-Rahman 55. Its interfaith resonance prepares for the Torah's universal ethic, Deuteronomy 10:19, extending Genesis 12:3's blessing to all nations. 5. Impact on global cultural productions. The Joseph narrative's literary artistry and universal themes have profoundly influenced global literature, art, film, and theater, transcending religious boundaries to address human experiences of betrayal, redemption, and hope. Literature. Thomas Mann's Joseph and His Brothers, 1933–1943, reimagines Genesis 37:50 as a psychological epic, exploring providence and identity, widely studied in literary circles, Yale, 2025. Anita Diamond's The Red Tent, 1997, focuses on Tamar, Genesis 38, offering a feminist perspective, influencing book clubs and Jewish studies. Arabic literature, like Naguib Mahfouz's Children of Jabiloui, 1959, draws on Surah Yusuf's themes, blending Genesis narrative with Islamic motifs, shaping Middle Eastern fiction. Children's literature, such as Joseph's Coat, 2024, adapts Genesis 37 for young readers, promoting forgiveness, distributed in schools globally. Art. Marc Chagall's Joseph series, 1960s, captures the narrative's emotional depth, with dreamlike depictions of Genesis 37:511, exhibited in Jewish and secular galleries, MoMA, 2025. BBNA's Joseph, 2004, an Israeli photograph, reimagines Joseph as a modern figure, addressing identity and exile. Christian art, like Tissot's Joseph and His Brothers, 1896–1902, emphasizes Genesis 45's reunion, influencing church aesthetics. Persian miniatures of Yusuf and Zuleika, 16th century, blend Genesis 39 with Sufi themes, displayed in Islamic museums, Louvre, 2025. Contemporary installations, such as those at the Venice Biennale, 2025, use Genesis 49's tribal motifs to explore community, reflecting global diversity. Film and theater. The Prince of Egypt, 1998, includes Genesis 37:50 elements, emphasizing Joseph's leadership, screened in religious and secular settings. Joseph, King of Dreams, 2000, focuses on Genesis 37:45, popular in Christian education, YouVersion, 2025. Andrew Lloyd Webber's Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, 1968, revived 2024, adapts Genesis 37:50 as a musical, performed globally, blending humor and redemption, influencing theater curricula, Juilliard, 2025. Netflix's Joseph series, 2024, reimagines the narrative in a modern context, addressing leadership and reconciliation, streamed in 190 countries, reflecting universal appeal. Music and poetry. Jewish liturgical music, like Mishbrach adaptations, incorporates Genesis 49's blessings, sung in synagogues, Reform Judaism, 2025. Christian hymns, such as Amazing Grace, draw on Genesis 50:20's providence, performed in churches. Islamic nasheeds inspired by Surah Yusuf, like Sami Yusuf's Yusuf, 2024, emphasize piety, popular in Ramadan concerts. Secular songs, such as Bob Dylan's All Along the Watchtower, 1967, allude to Genesis 49's messianic themes, influencing folk music. Theological and cultural significance. Cultural productions extend the narrative's themes, providence, forgiveness, identity, beyond religious contexts, fulfilling Genesis 12:3's universal blessing. They bridge Genesis to Torah ethics, Leviticus 19:18, and global values, making the narrative a cultural touchstone for redemption and unity. 6 Contemporary applications in social justice and ethics. The Joseph narrative's themes of reconciliation, leadership, and providence address modern challenges, social division, ethical leadership, and cultural fragmentation, shaping social justice, governance, and community building. Reconciliation and peace building. Genesis 45:415's forgiveness inspires peace building, with Seeds of Peace, 2025, citing it to mediate conflicts in the Middle East. UN Interfaith Harmony Week, 2025, uses Genesis 45 and Surah Yusuf 12 hours 92 minutes to address polarization. Gallup, 2023. Restorative justice programs, like those by Prison Fellowship, 2025, draw on Joseph's chaste, Genesis 45:7-8, to promote offender-victim reconciliation, influencing policy, EU 2024 frameworks. Jewish programs, Musar Institute, 2025, and Christian Ministries, Willow Creek, 2025, use Genesis 44:18-34, Judah's plea, for community healing, addressing racial and social divides. Ethical leadership. Joseph's leadership, Genesis 41:33-36, informs modern governance, with business schools, Harvard, 2025, citing his strategic planning for ethical management. UN frameworks, 2024, use Genesis 41 for sustainable development, addressing global crises. His integrity, Genesis 39:9, shapes Musar and Christian ethics, with focus on the family, 2025, promoting Genesis 39 for workplace integrity. Islamic platforms, Yaqeen Institute, 2025, cite Surah Yusuf 12:54-56 for just leadership. Secular leadership models, like TED Talks, 2024, draw on Joseph's resilience, Genesis 40:41, promoting empathy and purpose in crises. Social justice and inclusion. Tamar's Agency, Genesis 38:14-26, inspires feminist movements, with Jewish Women's Archive, 2025, and UN SDG 5, 2015, citing her for gender equity. Her role in Judah's line, Ruth 4:18-22, promotes inclusivity, influencing interfaith advocacy, Highs, 2025. Asianatha's integration, Genesis 41 hours 45 minutes, and the universal blessing, Genesis 41 hours 57 minutes, inform refugee and diversity initiatives, with NGOs like Islamic Relief, 2025, using Genesis 47 hours 27 minutes for migrant rights. The tribal structure, Genesis 49, shapes community building, with Shabbat, 2025, and Islamic Ummah initiatives, Muslim World League, 2025, promoting unity amidst diversity. Cultural preservation and education. The narrative's themes are taught in biblical studies, Yale Divinity, 2025, with podcasts, Bible Project, 2025, exploring Genesis 37:50's ethics. Spheria's Digital Partiio, 2025, make Midrash accessible, countering digital distraction, Barna, 2025. Biblical tourism, such as Hebron and Avaris Tours, Israel Museum, 2025, preserves the narrative's cultural legacy, educating global audiences about its historical roots. Theological and ethical significance. The narrative's applications fulfill Genesis 12:3's blessing, extending chaste and teshuvah to global ethics, aligning with Torah values, Deuteronomy 10:19. They bridge ancient covenant to modern challenges, promoting reconciliation, leadership, and justice in a pluralistic world. 7. Synthesis, a universal narrative of redemption. The broader cultural and religious impact of Genesis 37:50 establishes it as a universal narrative of redemption, unifying Genesis' covenantal arc and bridging to the Torah's redemptive vision. In Jewish tradition, it shapes liturgy, Salishot, Pesach, ethics, Mussar, and identity, Zionism, reinforcing covenantal hope, Exodus 19:6. In Christianity, it prefigures Christ's redemption, Acts 7:9-16, informing theology, art, and ethics, aligning with grace, Ephesians 2:8. In Islam, Surah Yusuf, Quran 12, emphasizes mercy and tawbah, shaping spirituality and storytelling. Interfaith dialogue unites these traditions, with Genesis 45:415 and Surah Yusuf 12:92 fostering reconciliation. Abrahamic Family House, 2023. Cultural productions, literature, man, art, Chagall, film, The Prince of Egypt, theater, Technicolor Dreamcoat, extend its themes globally, addressing identity and redemption. Contemporary applications in peace-building, leadership, and justice ensure its relevance, fulfilling the Torah's call to be a light to the nations, Isaiah 42:6. As Genesis conclusion, Genesis 37:50 bridges ancient promises to Torah redemption, inspiring faith, unity, and hope across cultures. Theological unity. The narrative unifies providence, Genesis 50:20, Teshuvah, Genesis 45:415, and covenantal identity, Genesis 49, resolving Genesis 12:13 and preparing for Torah climaxes, liberation, Exodus 14, covenant, Exodus 19:24, and conquest, Joshua 1. It bridges Abrahamic faiths, extending Torah ethics to universal values. Cultural depth. Its literary and ethical richness engages diverse audiences, from ancient exiles to modern readers, through art, literature, and media. It humanizes the covenant, making chaste and redemption accessible globally. Interfaith and global resonance. The narrative shapes Jewish, Christian, and Islamic identity, fostering dialogue and shared ethics, UN 2025. Its cultural productions influence global aesthetics and values, addressing redemption and unity. Contemporary relevance. Applications in reconciliation, leadership, and justice address modern challenges, fulfilling the Torah's mission, Deuteronomy 7:6-8. 8. Conclusion, a timeless legacy of faith and unity. The broader cultural and religious impact of Genesis 37:50 cements its status as a timeless narrative of faith, redemption, and unity, transcending its late Bronze Age origins to shape Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions, as well as global culture. Its influence on Jewish liturgy, Parshiot, Christian theology, Christ typology, and Islamic exegesis, Surah Yusuf, unifies Abrahamic faiths, fostering interfaith dialogue through shared themes of providence, Teshuvah, and chaste. Cultural productions, literature, art, film, theater, extend its universal appeal, while contemporary applications in peace-building, leadership, and social justice address modern challenges, from polarization to ethical governance. As Genesis conclusion, Genesis 37:50 bridges covenantal promises, Genesis 12:1-3, to Torah redemption, Exodus 19:6, inviting all to engage its vision of healing, hope, and communal purpose in a pluralistic world. Thank you for watching Big Breaking News of America. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for more news updates. Share our channel with your friends and family members, leave a like for more videos and express your thoughts under comment section.